Okay, let's talk about that feeling. You know the one. You're sitting there, maybe staring at your phone, maybe watching, I don't know, another episode of something you don't even really like that much. And all the while, this big, important dream is just sitting there in the back of your mind. Writing that book, maybe? Getting that business off the ground? Or, finally sticking to a fitness goal.
You got the ambition, right? The desire is definitely there.
Oh, yeah, tons of it. But then the moment comes to actually start. And poof, the ambition just vanishes. It's replaced by this inertia. You just can't seem to move.
It's such a common thing, that classic ambitious but paralyzed feeling. You know exactly what you should be doing. You might even desperately want to do it.
But you do nothing. Zip, nada.
Exactly.
It feels like this huge battle between the person you want to be and the person who, well, just wants to stay on the couch right now.
Right. And we tell ourselves all sorts of things, don't we? Oh, I'll start Monday, or when I have more energy, or when things calm down a bit.
Yeah, and that perfect moment, it never seems to actually show up. So we spent the last few days really digging into some fascinating stuff on this cognitive psychology, behavioral science, all looking at this exact problem.
And our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to pull out some simple, almost like ridiculously easy steps you can take, steps that don't rely on willpower, because let's face it, that runs out.
Definitely.
Instead, these are ways to sort of rewire your brain, move it away from avoidance and procrastination and towards actually doing the things that matter.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Why do we do this? Why does our brain, even when we're ambitious, default to, well, scrolling or watching TV?
Well, the fascinating thing the sources point out is that it's not really a character flaw. Like, you can stop blaming yourself right now.
Okay.
It's basically just efficient brain function, neurobiology. Your brain sees a huge task, write a 200-page novel or master Python coding.
Yeah, something massive.
And it immediately translates that huge effort into a danger signal. It reads it as pain.
Pain? Really? Even if the outcome is something we really want.
Absolutely. Because the brain's primary directive, deep down, is survival. That means conserve energy, avoid difficulty, seek comfort. It's the path of least resistance.
So when the task feels like pain, the brain just pulls the emergency brake, sends us running for cover.
Exactly. Sends you diving for the nearest, easiest comfort. Scrolling, snacking, binge watching, whatever takes the least effort. The system is actually working perfectly to protect you from perceived pain.
Working against our bigger goals.
Precisely. Which means we need a way to kind of sneak past that alarm system.
Right.
And the really good news, as the research strongly suggests, is that this laziness, quote unquote, it isn't who you are. It's just a habit. It's a learned pattern.
And habits can be changed.
They absolutely can. We just need to convince the brain that the hard thing, well, maybe it isn't actually that hard or painful.
Okay, I'm ready for the fixes. Let's get practical. The first big idea we found, the one that tackles that pain response directly, is making the task tiny.
Yes. This is fundamental. It's about lowering the barrier so much that the avoidance response doesn't even get triggered. Remember, the initial goal isn't finish the project. The initial goal is just start.
Because the big goal feels scary, impossible sometimes. And that's the trigger for procrastination.
Exactly. If my to-do list says complete massive client report, my brain just shuts down.
I know that feeling. Suddenly making a fresh pot of coffee seems incredibly urgent. Or maybe alphabetizing the spice rack.
Right. That's the pain response diverting you. So the sources say, define the task so small that it feels almost silly not to do it. The effort to procrastinate would actually be more than the effort to just do the tiny thing.
And the examples they gave were brilliant. Like, instead of write my book, the goal for today is just write one sentence.
Just one. Not a paragraph, not a page. One sentence.
Or you want to learn guitar? Don't aim to master a whole song.
Nope. Just practice one chord. That's it. Session complete. 5 minutes, maybe less.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If I only write one sentence, am I really making progress on a novel? Isn't that, I don't know, letting myself off too easy? Does it trivialize the big goal?
That's a fair question. But the key here is that the objective of that first tiny step isn't really physical progress, it's psychological.
Ah, okay.
That one sentence, that one chord, it's not about finishing the book or the song right then. It's about achieving a micro success. It proves to your brain, hey, see, that wasn't painful, that was easy. It breaks the pattern.
So we're shifting the focus away from perfection, away from the huge endpoint, and just on to motion, getting started.
Exactly right. It's all about progress, not perfection. Those tiny steps create tiny wins, and those tiny wins generate positive feedback. They start to overwrite that initial danger, pain signal from your
Oh,
brain.
climbing a mountain, right? You don't leap to the summit.
You'd never start if you thought you had to. You just focus on the next step and the next one. If you only stare at the peak, you freeze. If you focus on putting one foot in front of the other, you eventually get there.
And those small steps, done consistently, they add up.
They add up massively, often in ways you don't even expect.
Okay, so we've shrunk the task, made it feel manageable, almost trivial. But what about keeping it going? Life happens. We get tired, stressed, motivation dips. Relying on willpower alone feels shaky.
Yeah, willpower is like a muscle. It gets fatigued. If you have to consciously decide every single day to do even the tiny task, eventually you'll skip a day. And maybe two.
And then you're back to square one. So this is where automation comes in, building routines.
Exactly. This brings us to step 2. Create easy routines. Routines take the decision-making out of it. They put the action on autopilot.
The sources call them training wheels. I like that. They support you until the habit becomes second nature. The idea is to design your environment so starting is almost automatic, less friction.
It's clever. You're using inertia to your advantage rather than fighting against it. You're training your brain to respond to a cue, not waiting for a burst of inspiration.
And the example they use for this is so concrete. If you want to exercise in the morning,
Don't rely on waking up and deciding to do it. That's a losing battle half the time.
instead, the night before, put your running shoes and your workout clothes right next to your bed.
So when that alarm goes off, the path of least resistance isn't hitting snooze or grabbing your phone. It's literally stepping into your shoes. They're right there.
You've lowered the activation energy, as they say, made it easier to start than to avoid.
Right. But what about things that aren't physical? Like, say you want to practice mindfulness or manage anxiety or even just plan your week better. You can't exactly put your mindfulness cushion by the bed. Well, you could, but...
Yeah, maybe not as effective.
So for those internal or mental tasks, the trick is habit stacking. You link the new tiny habit to something you already do automatically.
Piggybacking on an existing routine.
Exactly. Like maybe your cue is your first sip of morning coffee. As soon as you take that sip, that triggers your 2 minutes of mindfulness practice. Or maybe when you finish washing the dinner dishes, you immediately spend 1 minute writing down one thing you're grateful for.
So you're building the new habit into the structure of your day, not trying to wedge it in somewhere with sheer force of will.
Precisely. Okay, so we have tiny tasks and we have routines to make them easier. But there's still that moment right before you actually start, that little voice saying, I don't want to.
Yeah, that initial hurdle, that can still be the killer, even if the task is tiny.
That resistance is the final gatekeeper.
Which leads us perfectly into step 3, the 2-minute rule. This one is aimed squarely at blasting through that initial resistance.
It's such a simple, powerful idea. The rule is basically a promise you make to yourself. You commit to working on your chosen task for just 2 minutes.
Well, like 2 minutes.
That's it. So if your goal is decluttering, the 2-minute rule means you tackle one small corner of a room, tidy one shelf, put away 5 things.
Or if you want to read more nonfiction, maybe dense stuff you've been avoiding.
You just read 1 page. 2 minutes is probably about 1 page for most people.
And the magic is, you often don't stop at 2 minutes, do you?
Rarely. Because the point isn't the 2 minutes itself. The point is breaking the inertia, getting started, generating that forward momentum.
It's like physics, isn't it? An object at rest stays at rest.
And an object in motion stays in motion. The sources used a great analogy. It's like pushing a huge, heavy ball down a very gentle slope.
Okay.
That first push, those first 2 minutes, feels disproportionately hard. You're straining, using all your focus, and the ball barely moves. That's the resistance.
But once it starts rolling,
even just a tiny bit, momentum begins to take over. It gets easier. It starts moving more freely, requiring less conscious effort. The 2-minute rule is designed purely to get the ball rolling.
it short-circuits the internal debate. Because really, who can argue they don't have 120 seconds?
Exactly. It feels too small to procrastinate on. You trick your brain, you start doing the thing before your brain fully registers the threat and throws up the usual walls.
Okay, so we've started. We push the ball, maybe it's rolling a little. How do we make sure we want to do it again tomorrow? What reinforces this new pattern?
Ah, yes, the crucial follow-up. The bonus tip, rewards.
This ties back to the brain science, right?
Absolutely. Remember how the brain saw the big task as pain? We need to teach it that completing the tiny task registers as pleasure or reward. Otherwise, why would it repeat the behavior?
Makes sense. If starting felt bad, even for 2 minutes, you'll avoid it next time. If starting felt good,
You're much more likely to do it again. So the idea is right after you finish your tiny task, your 1 sentence, your 1 chord, your 2 minutes of tidying, You give yourself a small, immediate reward.
And we're not talking about buying yourself a car here.
No. Tiny rewards for tiny efforts. It could be listening to one favorite song, doing a quick stretch that feels good, taking 3 deep, satisfying breaths, maybe savoring your coffee for a moment without guilt.
You're consciously creating a positive association. You're telling your brain, hey, doing that small thing led to this nice feeling.
You are literally forging new neural pathways, linking effort with positive reinforcement instead of the old pathway of big goal, pain, run away.
This really shifts the whole perspective, doesn't it? It's not just about tricks and tactics. It's about changing your relationship with the work and with yourself.
It really is. It means acknowledging that this is hard for everyone sometimes. Nobody leaps out of bed perfectly motivated every single day. Success isn't built on flawlessness.
It's built on just starting again.
Yes. And we have to talk about failure. Because you will miss a day. You will have moments where the 2-minute rule feels impossible. That's not failure in the grand sense.
Failure isn't the opposite of success.
It's part of the process. The key is not letting one missed day turn into 2 or a week. Just pick it back up tomorrow. Be kind to yourself about it. Consistency trumps intensity every time.
I think the fire analogy from the source material really captures this whole journey beautifully. We should share that.
Oh, definitely. It's powerful. Think of your big dream, the book, the business, whatever it is right now. It might just be a tiny little spark. Very fragile.
If you ignore it, waiting for perfect conditions or for a giant log to magically appear,
It'll just fizzle out. But every time you take one of these small actions, write the sentence, put out the shoes, do the 2 minutes, it's like adding one tiny piece of kindling, a little bit of fuel.
you don't need a roaring bonfire on day 1. That's overwhelming anyway.
You just need to consistently add those small pieces of fuel, day by day, week by week.
And eventually.
That consistent feeding turns that fragile little spark into a steady flame and then into a roaring, self-sustaining fire. And that fire, that's where the massive change happens. That's your ambition realized.
Okay, fantastic. Let's quickly recap the core takeaway for you, the learner. It boils down to this. Consistency is everything, and consistency is built on making action almost ridiculously easy.
Forget heroic effort, think tiny step.
Right. So the 3 steps again are
Make the task small, so small it feels silly.
Yeah.
1 sentence, 1 chord, 1 minute. Defang the fear. 2, create easy routines, use cues, habit stacking, put the shoes by the bed, automate the starting process, remove the need for willpower.
make it the path of least resistance.
And 3, use the 2-minute rule. Just commit to starting for 120 seconds. Push the ball down the hill. Momentum will follow.
And remember the underlying principle here. Perfection is the enemy. It's often just a fancy form of procrastination because it makes the task seem too big, too scary.
You don't need perfect.
You just need consistency. Even those tiny efforts done regularly, day in, day out, they genuinely compound into massive, sometimes unbelievable results over time.
So the final thought for you to take away, knowing that even minuscule, consistent effort is enough fuel to build that fire. What's the one big thing you've been delaying, waiting for that mythical, perfect moment to start?
And more importantly, what's the 1-sentence version, the 1-page version,
Yeah.
the 2-minute version of that task that you could realistically do right now?
Your dreams are that tiny spark. They're just waiting for that first piece of kindling. Go on. Light the fire.